So we are back into the second half of our session. So let's start off with the second half, in which we are going to make an API call and populate the cards which were present in the design using Jquery. So first of all, we need to install the Jquery module. So let's search for Jquery npm because we are going to use the npm module instead of the script tag. So I think this is the module which we want. So usually when importing Jquery, we go with script src and Jquery import. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to install it using the Jquery tag and then hopefully install it or use it like this. So let's start off with that part. So this is the main Jquery website. Let's just go and start it because we are going to use the library as well. And this is the homepage of Jquery where we can find all the details. So first of all, let's just try if it works using the npm install, and if it doesn't work, we will go with the script tag. So I'm just going to copy the Jquery npm, come back to Visual Studio Code and add it using yarn add. Now once it is installed, it will be updated in the package.json file. So let me just minimize the node modules, and there will be an entry of Jquery here in the dependencies. So Tailwind got installed in dev dependencies, Jquery is in dependencies. After that, we can again go with yarn dev and start off with our project again. Next, we need to check if this works. So I'm just going to come back into main.js and import dollar. So import dollar from Jquery. I don't know if this works. I'm doing this for the first time. So let me just console.log dollar symbol and see if it is defined or if it has anything. Like dollar is the basic symbol by which we access all the properties. Let's just check. We come to the console part. We have the function of Jquery, so we can use it. So we are saved. So in order to access console, you right click and click on inspect. And after clicking on the console, you get the output here. So this is a simple console.log statement. The first thing which we need to do is we need to make the API call. So for that, we are going to first check a function which is called as body onload from Jquery. So let's just go to the Jquery docs and let's just search body onload Jquery. So whatever code we write, we need it to be executed only once the Jquery body is loaded. Like we only want it to execute after all the DOM elements which are present initially are loaded, and only then we will make the API call or do other functions. So that is why we need the body onload or window onload. So let's copy this and add it here. So we are going with window.load function, and the function which we need to write here is currency prices. Now next we need to define this function. So let's define the function as well. Let's just add a console.log so that we know that this works. So let's just add, let's call as the log, hit save, come back to our console, and we have an issue which is init function. Did I do something wrong? Yeah, it doesn't work.
One eternity later.
Yeah, this is what I wanted. So this is the right syntax. I think the syntax changed on the Jquery part, and now if we call this, now it should work. Yes. So this was the function which we were looking for, which is window onload, and then the function call. Syntax has changed. I cannot do anything about it, and I haven't like used Jquery since a long time. So yeah, mistakes happen. So once we have the fetch call, we now need to make the actual API call to a URL. So whenever we are building any sorts of project and we need some APIs, on GitHub there is a good repository which has list of all APIs which you can use. So you can search for open APIs list and on GitHub. And there is a repository which is, I think, public APIs and other as well, where you can find all the APIs. So yeah, I have already started because I use this a lot. So we are just going to go into cryptocurrency section, and we need an API which does not contain an auth. Like if it needs an auth, it will need an API key, and there will be sign up and other stuff involved, which I don't want. So for now, I think I'm going to go with the CoinCap API, which doesn't have an auth, but it has an HTTPS. So this is the API which we have, and I think this is the API which we need. Like we have the Bitcoin currency and we have the price in USD. So let me just close this off, copy this API URL, and this is how where you will get all the information. So asset price is volume calculated by collecting and translate to USD and other endpoints. So that is good enough for us, and this is the data which we need actually. So this is a API is basically a URL. When you hit that URL or open that URL from JavaScript language, you get the data in return like this. So this is what API stands for. And the full form of API, if you don't know, is application programming interface. I don't know who named it, but that is how it is named. It is called as API request. Now, other than that, we need another method which is Ajax. So, and this is the method which we usually use for getting data. So $.ajax URL and stuff. I don't know if this is work, but let's just try. Like the syntax usually changes. So in the URL section, copy this assets part, edit here. I don't think I need context. And in the function part, I need the response or the data actually. Let's just search on Google. Jquery Ajax get example is what we need. And yeah, W3 schools would be the best resource for now. So this is our URL. Okay, we can go with $.get. Let's try that. So this is a get request. Basically, get request is used to get data or fetch data. Post is used to send data to server. So we copy the URL. I don't need an alert. I just need a console.log of the data return. So let's just log the data before we proceed ahead. I think there should be an error handler as well, but I don't see an error handle right now. Error handler. And let's just come back to our website. So we have a data here with all the data which we needed. From this, I'm going to use the first 6 cryptocurrencies for our case. And I don't like actually to write code without handling errors. So I'm just going to check if there is a error method for this, error handler basically. So Jquery get error. And this is what we have, but I need that error thing. Okay. So we have a fail. Let's just add that. Is there a better one? Okay, there is just a fail function. Okay. Good enough for me. If it is failing, I just need to know that error has occurred. Basically, these open APIs have a rate limiting. And if there is a rate limiting occurring, we just need to know that. So just error occurred here. It's save. Then from this data, we need to take the first 6 elements. So let's just go back to our crypto app. So in the data part, we have the, so this is my response actually. Let's just name this as response. So this is basically a callback function from which we get the response. So we can define a function or variable here which is const. So data is equal to response dot data. So the data that we are getting is an array of 100 elements, and I don't need that much amount of elements in the initial design. Like later I can go ahead and take the entire 100 cryptocurrencies, but currently I would just be happy with having 6 elements and then eventually increase the limit. So there are two ways in which I can reduce this data from 100 to 6. First is I can use the slice method and do it in the front end code or reduce this array size from my end. Second is in this API, we have a limit option where we can tell the number of elements that we want in our array. So if I pass a limit as 6, we only get the first 6 elements till XRP, and that is what we want. So what I'm going to do is in the assets section, I'm going to add a query param with limits is equal to 6. Now my neighbors are doing some repairing work, so if you hear any background noise, sorry for that. And let's just see what response we get in our website now. So let's open localhost and check. I think this should be on the right. So this is our data. And as we can see, we only have the 6 first elements. Now the next thing that we need is we need to pass this data into a function, which will be able to populate the actual data into our Bitcoin card, as well as populate the rest of the 5 cards as well. So for that, I'm going to write another function at the top of this, which is a function to create or generate card elements. And in this function, I'm going to pass this crypto data and we'll process it from there on. So let's just take this function name and add it here and pass the crypto data param. Also, it is a good practice to document your function. So I'm just going to write the function information in comments like function to fetch data from API. And we will write the doc for or comment for this once we are done with writing the complete function. So in this case, what we need to do is we need to populate the Bitcoin card, which is currently having a class of currency card, and move forward from there. So let's just search how to populate cards using Jquery. So this is a Stack Overflow question basically, and this is how they want you to do it. Obviously, we have a document already function, so we are done with that. Now, this is the data which we have for, in our case, we have the crypto data. In this case, I think they have a car-based data. So they are using under $.each. So let's just see what $.each is. Basically, it is a loop as far as I know, but let's just go to the official docs and check. So each method basically traverses to each of the data that we pass and it runs like a for loop. Then in that for loop, we are passing the data as the param, and this is the function which is supposed to iterate over that entire array. In the array, we have the index which is running from I, which is running from I is equal to 0 to, in our case, it will be run to 5 because we have 6 elements, and 0 to 5 will run because we have 6 elements, like from 0 to last index will be 5. And then we have the car, which is the data which we need to add. Next thing they are telling us is that take the class, then find the element within that card. Like in our case, the card element is currency card, and within that, let's say we want to populate currency title. So we'll find the currency title using find, and within that the text will be added from our data. So let me just copy this code and try it out. So in our case, I'm not going to touch the else part right now. Let the else part be handled in some time. And let's just try and improve the I is equal to 0. So in case of I is equal to 0, we have the Bitcoin card present here. So let's copy the data first. Is there any error first of all? Okay, we'll figure it out. So in the main.js, we have this function. I think it is not closed properly. Okay. So I think it is closed now. So hopefully Vite won't throw an error. Yeah, it is working properly. So we take the currency card, which is the parent class of our card, add it in the $.currency card. Then we'll find the currency title, add it in the .currency title, and it is showing us text. So let me just check. Okay, it will work because we have span tag, and from our API, the name param needs to be added. So this would be currency, and from currency, we'll add the name. Then let's just repeat the process. So we have currency subtitle or notation. In that we are going to add the symbol. Next, the rank. So let's just add a class here. So this should be currency rank container, and the span would be actual currency rank, or we can go with currency rank text here and keep this as currency rank. So copy the currency rank text and add it in the main.js, and in the currency rank text we pass the rank. Last but not the least, the price. So let's have a class name here as well. Currency price text. Copy the currency price text and add it here. And the price I think is in price USD. But if you observe the price USD, it has a long kind of notation. Let me just save and show you what the problem will be. So I'm just saving both of these things and coming back to the code. So data is not defined. So we need to change this to crypto data. So this is the problem which I was talking about. Like we don't need the entire floating value. So what we will do is we will float it to the first decimal. And for that we have maths, floor and seal, or we can even use round. There are ways to do it. So round method is can be used to round the digit to the value. So this is the nearest integer. I think I need floor. So for decimal, let's just check. I think the method name is too fixed. Yeah, this should work. So I need it till the first two decimals. I think first two or first one would be good enough. So let's just add to fixed and value will be 1. So if we come back to our website, okay, for some reason it did not allow me to do it. Let me just check why. So this is our data, and let's just open it out. It is a string method, so we need to parse the string to integer. Basically, we need to convert the string to integer before we can run the to fixed. So let's just go with parseInt method to convert this to integer and then run to fixed on it, and we have the value. So I think this should be good enough. We can even go for round, but I'm not sure if all the currencies have the values in proper fashion. We'll just check. Then in the next part, let's just copy this next code and continue building the other cards. So I don't like where I'm going to change this to const. Then this will be currency card. We clone it, then we copy all this code. So currency title dot text will be currency dot name, and instead of card detail clone, we will add card or currency detail clone. Let's just replace the other two with this and copy the rest of the code. The last thing which we need to do is we need to append the generated card to the parent element of our card. So in this case, it is currencies container. Basically, we are cloning the Bitcoin card and then appending the card again. Like we make a clone of that card and we append it to the parent container. So that is what we are going to do 5 times to generate the rest of the 5 cards. Let's just hope this works. And let's just check. So I think we are reaching the API limit. Yeah, if you hit the API too many times, it will show an error that you have been blocked. Okay, I am not blocked. That's great. So this is how it looks like. Now this was the reason why I was trying to go with to fix, because some of the elements are like less than 0. So what I'm going to do is, for the elements which are greater than 1, we will use the round method, and the elements which are less than, like the cryptocurrency which are less than 0 or 1, we will use the to fixed method with some additional integers. So in this case, let's just define a function convert price, and we'll pass the price here. If the price is greater than 1, we will return maths.round, like the entire integer instead of the decimals directly. And in the else part, we will return to fixed notation till I think 3 should be good enough. So to fixed till 3. and we are going to pass this parse int value there. So we pass the integer value to our convert price function, and hopefully this time we won't be able, like we won't see the values. Yeah, this is good enough, I think. Like 1.3, 2.3. Cardano is also 1. XRP is, I think, very low in price. It's 0.7 actually. So why? This shouldn't have happened for XRP in that case. Like if it is 0.76. I think percent is making some issue. Let's just check. Percent is making issue. Oh, okay, okay. So this is a decimal value. We cannot use percent. It is converted to integer. We need to use parse float. So percent will actually convert the integer and remove all the decimals. We don't want that. So we need parse float, like convert it to a float instead of integer. Let's just do that. I think now the issue will be solved properly. Yeah, let's just wait for some time for it to get in properly. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we need to like arrange this card in a grid fashion. So I'm just going to hit refresh. And for some time, I think the issue is if I add the limit, the API limits me, else it works. But the grid is too long. So I'm just going to slice for some time. Dot slice. Slice is a method by which you can divide a long array to shorter one. So if I remove the limit, I will get 100 elements. Slice would return the elements from 0 to the index. So in our case 0 to 5. This should work for some time. That is why the error condition is important. So we know what errors are occurring in our data. Now we need to arrange these elements in a grid fashion like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's just search for grid in our Tailwind file. First thing that we need to do is we need to change the display to grid. So let's convert this to grid. Then the column needs to be 3. So grid auto columns needs to be added. So we'll go with template columns and we need to repeat the 3 columns. Like we need a 3 column syntax basically. So let's just see how this looks. So now they are arranged properly. I think we need to go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. The last element, it is till the last element, not up to. So from 0 to 6, we return the first 6 elements. Now we need some padding from the top. Sorry, the margin from the top. Or is there a grid spacing kind of a thing? I don't know. Yeah, we have just a content and stuff. So I'm just going to quickly check how that works. So let's click inspect. We are just trying out some stuff. So this is my grid right now. It won't work. Is there any grid spacing or stuff? I haven't used grid much. I have used flex. That is why I'm searching. Yeah, there is a gap. So I need a row gap. Oh, I don't know. gap 3 probably. Let's just try that in real time so that we don't make too many requests to our server. Hmm. Okay. So gap 3 will be too small. Gap 6. Oops. Okay. So gap works, but I need only a row gap, right? So row gap is y, and row gap needs to be gap y. Let's just try gap y8. And we are good enough. Next, I need to center this entire thing. So for that, let me just check what we can do. In Flex, I know we just need to have a line item center and stuff. But this is right now a grid. So a line item center won't work. I need this grid to be entirely towards the center. First thing which I can do is set the width to 75%. Next, I need this grid to shift. So either I can go with display flex, justify content center. This would be my first approach. But the issue is each of these element that we see is not centered with it. Like this is at the end. I want the grid items to be centered as well. So let's just check what we can do about that. So we can first go with just a center. I think place item center was the class. If it doesn't work, we'll go with the other one. Yeah, place item center works. So now it is at the center and the parent needs to be at the center as well. What if happen? I need to add the parent class as well. So first thing that we do is in the parent class, we add flex and justify center property to center the parent, the entire grid into center of the page. Next thing that we do is we center out each of the item within the grid cell. Like if this is my grid cell that you see in that bordered shade, I don't know how to show it to you. Let me just minimize this a bit. So if this is my grid, like which is even dotted lines that you can see, each rectangle dotted lines, I want to center that each block in the center of that dotted rectangle line. Like if you see that purple rectangle right now on the screen, in those purple rectangle, I want the Bitcoin Ethereum to be center of that purple rectangle. So for that, we use place item center. Save. Okay, we messed something up. So this is our grid. I think I did not add the width part. So width 75%. Okay, the grid has to have the width. So W75, I think, will be the property. W9 by 12. This looks like the way in which we used to divide the soup in our childhood. Like if there were 4 people, we used to do it 2 by 4. So right now we are doing 9 by 4. Yeah, this works. Only thing now is to add the footer and add a loading later. Like we don't want to show only the Bitcoin card in the initial page load. We want a loading indicator. So I am not sure whether a loading indicator is present. But before that, let me just add a footer so that we are done with the design part first. So what footer is basic one. So we just collapse the section block and add a footer below. Let's just add a copyright. And even that's it. Then we need to add some classes to footer. This will be site footer and We need to add text center as well. And I think we can go with this plan for footer as well. The only issue right now will be the footer will be at the page top. So yeah, this is what I was talking about. I need it to be at the bottom of the page. So we need to go with position fixed and bottom 0. So we first go with position, which is fixed. Sticky would be good too, but let's just keep it at fixed and bottom 0. So we need a bottom of 0. Okay, let me just copy it. I think bottom 0 will be just bottom dash 0 as far as I think. But we will have to check if bottom 0 property exists. Does it exist? Yes, it exists. So we go with bottom dash 0 and the footer is at the bottom now. I think we also need W full and let's just add that dark purple shade. So we copy the site footer, come back to style.css. I don't know what we did with color there. And we add the background color, which is dark purple. Let's just also add the font family robot. Usually when you add the year, we usually add it using JavaScript like date.get here, so that every year we don't have to come and replace the year. But for now, this would work. So let's add some padding from top and bottom. This is fine. Now the only issue is this, like when the API is loading, we shouldn't show this single thing. We need to show all the elements or at least show a loading indicator. So I don't know if there is loading indicator in Tailwind. We'll have to check. And let me just close all the tabs because Chrome takes a lot of memory and I don't like utilizing every part of my system resources basically. So let's just close all the tabs which we are done with and carry on with our code. We are done with fonts, I think. So loading indicator in Tailwind CSS. So what do we have? We have an SVG actually, but I don't know how to get that SVG. Like spinning is good, but what is if we just add this, will it work? I don't think so. Let's just try at the top of our section. It won't work. Right. That is not how it is supposed to work. So I don't want that kind of thing. I just want a spinning symbol loading over. Like, yeah, this is something like what I want. So we have a div class loader and others. Let's just copy this and copy this. Let's just copy this entire thing. So this needs to be there only when we are loading the stuff, right? So what we can do is let this be the way it is. Let's just add a section ID to section, which is site body, and in the main.js there are two ways, but there is a complicated way, and I am trying to see if there is a simpler way. So the first way would be to replace the entire thing with a loading indicator. Second way would be, okay, let's just add the class first of all. So, and the spinner doesn't work. Let's just search for animation again. Okay, it is spinning now. Next, we copy the classes of the loader. I think okay, he has done it using the animation, but I don't think we need the animation because we just need the loader class. So I think I know how to do this. First of all, let's just undo all the stuff that we did right now. Add our loader, add the styles which they have used. Yeah, this is good enough. And then we will add the animate spin to the loader. It's spinning now. It is not spinning. Here we have the border of color for the loader class. Important never fails to like. Okay, so what we will do is when the element is getting loaded, we will display this class, and when it is not getting loaded, we will remove the display class. So first thing that we do is we add a display none to this loader. So let's just search. We have a display none. Yeah, hidden. So we'll add a hidden class to the loader initially so that it is not getting displayed now. So this has a classes, like a lot of classes. Let's have an ID which is loader container. Copy the loader container in the main.js. When you are fetching the data initially, we will set the display of this loader to block or whatever it was initially. I don't know what it was. So hash loader container dot jQuery. Let's just search for display. So we'll go with .css display block. Initially. Okay, what was the display by default? Fixed, my bad. So this should be fixed, not block. No, what fixed is let me just remove the hidden and check what is the display. Comment the block stuff. Let's just check what is the default display. It is flex, I think. Yeah, it is display flex. Okay. So we'll set this display to flex by default when it is loading. And once my data is loaded, we'll change this to none again. Yeah, this looks better. Other than that, I think I can change the background a bit. So let me just change this to flex. And we don't want this semi-transparent background. We want like the entire proper background. So let's just check. So it is breezy gray 700. We will change this to 800 or complete breezy gray, which doesn't work. So let's just check what BG property has. Background color. So the max we can go is BG 900. I think that is enough for us. So we go with BG 900 and we can change the opacity to 100. Cool stuff. Or 90, I hope. Yeah, this looks better. So we can see the header and we can see all the stuff. So let's just remove this to none. And we have the website running properly. The next part in our building is we are done with API call and population. We are done with adding loading indicator. Let's make the website responsive. So let's just, okay, let me remove this console.log. I don't want it. So we can switch to responsive by clicking on this device toolbar. And it looks like a mess. We will fix this mess. The reason why it is looking like a mess because we have this grid calls 3 property. So what we can do is we have some responsive breakpoints. So if you search for responsive breakpoints, by using them, we can only apply the properties for a specific resolution. So I will set the calls tree first of all to like we will only set the columns to number 3 when we are on desktop resolution and not on mobile phone. So for that, this would be LG colon. Let's just come back and check. Okay, this looks better. Oops. Let me just slide it to the right. Or okay, where am I? Good. And I think we can go a little bit full screen as well. Like we can increase the bit slightly. So this is what our card is right now at W52. So for mobile resolution, I don't know. We should increase this a bit to around 75, 76. No. Width. Let's just check the max possible width. Views 52, there is 80. So how does it look in 80? Just a moment. Let's just try the W80 value. Yeah, this looks better. So what we will do is the W52 will be applied to large screen resolution, and for mobile resolution we will switch to W80 and it's here. So yeah, this looks better. And I think the footer shouldn't be fixed in case of our mobile resolution. So let it scroll down properly. So this fixed class that we have, let's just keep this to desktop only. I think the API remit list, it's okay. So network tab, we might get the response. Sometimes the API server tells us that we are making too many requests. We shouldn't make that many amount of requests actually. So yeah, this is how it looks on mobile phone resolution. Now there are last two things remaining. First of all, as I mentioned that we need to create this second variation. But first, let's just deploy the website to Netlify before we proceed ahead with that. So I'm just going to go to Netlify drop right now instead of going to GitHub. Let's just go with Netlify drop. So let's just come back to Vite.js docs and see how to create a build to be deployed. So we created a build. Now the next thing that we need to do is we need to create a production build which we can apply. So the command is build. So we come out of development mode, run yarn build to generate a production level build. So this will basically generate a minimized JavaScript, then take all the files and add it to the final build folder. So this is what we have, and I think it is present in the dist folder. We should serve the check how the build looks like before we deploy. So we run yarn serve and just go to localhost colon 5000 and check how production build looks like. Yeah, it looks fine. Next thing we do is we go to Netlify drop. Netlify drop is basically a website in which you just drag and drop the dist folder and it will be live. So I'm just going to go to the directory where this is present and get the dist folder and drag and drop. This is how easy the deployment process has become right now, thanks to websites like Netlify and Vercel. So we go to the site settings first because I don't want this URL. Like I want a proper URL. So I just go to change site name and we go with basic crypto price listing. I'm purposefully using long URL because there might be someone who might be able to use this URL in a better fashion. That is why I'm using not a proper URL but a URL just to show you how it looks on a proper URL or a deployed website. Let's just see how it looks like. Now I don't know if it is deployed. Let me just check on the deploy section. It is published. So yeah, we have the app live as well, and it looks good on both mobile as well as desktop. Last thing which we can do is change the background settings. So the first thing that we do is we change the background to light purple. So let's just come back to our code in the style.css part. We have the body background color to purple. Let's just change this to light purple. And I think I will have to run yarn serve again. Sorry, yarn dev to switch to development mode. And we come back to our server. So now we change the background of this elements. Now if you observe, okay, let me just rearrange the elements a bit. So what we can do is we can either use Jquery to set the background of each of the elements, but there is a better way. And the better way is to go for CSS child selectors. Like I know that the first and third element contains, okay, let me just remove this. Okay. So right now I know that the first and the third element contains this kind of background. Second and fourth contains the grayish background, and third and sixth contains this kind of background. So we are going to use CSS child selector property to set the background to linear gradients. And in the CSS child selectors or CSS selectors, this is not the one which I need. Yeah, and child property basically. So in the end child, we can have this kind of a formula by which we can select some elements and set the background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this child, which has a class of currency card. So in the currency card, we are going to use the end child property. So we come back to our code, and just after the loader, we'll copy this and currency card class. given the enchild property. First will be the element 1 and 3, which is n, and n plus 3, which is, so when n is 1, it needs to be 1. When n is 2, it needs to be 3. Something like that. Let's just go with background red just to test that this is working, first of all. So we come back to the code. It is working. Now what we are going to do is for the 2n property, like the second and the fourth, let's just go with the easier one, which is this one. We will apply this linear background. So we go to the inspect section, and I need the CSS for this, which is linear gradient. So we copy the linear gradient and set this to second and fourth. So like second and fourth now has that linear gradient background. And if you are confused like how this happened, okay, it needs to be second and fifth. So when n is 1, it needs to be 2. When n is 2, it needs to be fifth. So and
One eternity later.
after giving up on using the formula, I have just used the indexes directly. Like for the first and fourth element, we are using the bluish background linear gradient. For second and fifth element, we are using the grayish background gradient. And for third and sixth element, we are using the purplish background gradient. I don't know if there is any formula to generate 1 when n is 1 and 4 when n is 2. So I just given up on it. If you find a formula by which you can generate this series, that would be great. But for now, I think we are okay with this. So let's just run the build again using yarn build. And then we deploy it again back to Netlify drop. So we come back to the Netlify website, and here we can just drop the update this folder. So we take this disk folder from here. I don't think it got uploaded. Okay. So we uploaded the disk folder. In some time, it will start deploying the changes. And once the site is live, we can hit refresh on the actual website, and the background will be changed, hopefully. So it will take some time, like on the first load. After that, it works properly. So we have our website running. And if you go to the responsive view, this is how it looks like. So I think that's it from my end. You can add some spacing in the footer as well, but I think we are done with the actual code. So that's it from my end for today. If you like this video, hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more, like more projects like this, or learn from more such projects. I'll be focusing on some backend projects from now onwards, because we have done a lot of front-end projects, and I find that backend needs to be covered as well. So in the upcoming projects, we will cover some backend like Node.js, MongoDB, other stuff which comes to my mind. But that's it from mine from today. Hope you found this video useful, and we can say goodbye from here. So goodbye.